Hi there, Stampers. Welcome. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I'm here with today's live. I am broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook simultaneously. I do want to point out something that Facebook has alerted us to is they're going to limit the amount of time they're going to leave things on Facebook. When we upload videos, they tell us now they're going to be there for 30 days and then they're going to disappear. So if you wanted to go back and view old videos, please make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel because they will stay there indefinitely, or that's the plan anyway, until YouTube tells us different. So hopefully you're subscribed over there. We're going to be doing a flip card today. So this is, again, one of those things that was kind of similar to what I've done before, and it's a new little twist on it. I'm always trying to find something just a little bit different for you guys. Again, it's really easy, so we're going to do 2 of them. Very similar to what I did, I don't know, it was last week, but a while ago. But a little bit easier, actually. So I love things that are fun and easy, but yet still kind of pack a little bit of a wow. That's kind of what I like the best. So hopefully that you like that. I want to say congratulations to Karen. She is our winner from Thursday's live. She was going to be getting one of the cards we did then. We did 2 cards last Thursday, and she is the winner of one of those. So it's all ready to go out. She just needs to go to my website, queenbeecreations.net. And then up there in the address bar, you're going to put a /prize patrol, and it's going to take you to a Google form where you fill out where you would like that mailed to claim your prize. So congratulations. The way she got that was she liked and commented the video and then let me know she did that. So make sure you're doing those things and putting that in the comments. So let's get ready to our card. I feel like I've babbled. Okay, so these are our 2 cards, as I said. It's a flip card. And so it has this little, kind of like we did on Thursday, only we added some paper to it this time and added a square on the front. So just stepped it up a bit. This one, instead of, before we had cut a 1/2 inch kind of all the way around, this time I just left a little flat. So this was something that Karen from Stamping on the Back Porch had done it this way. And so I thought I would show you guys how easy this is. And then we're going to play around with the Stampin' Right markers because we did have some people take advantage of the special we had going on for Celebration during January and February. If you joined, you got to pick 2 sets of the Stampin' Right markers as an addition to your kit for free, along with a stamp set that went with it. But a lot of people aren't really sure what to do with these. Since we have gotten the blends, which I love to color with, obviously, people don't really know what to do with the Stampin' Right markers. So we're going to play around with that today. Let's see, which one should we do first? So I have our card base. Okay, so this must be this one here. No, what am I doing here? That's this one. Okay. Yes, that's the pieces for this one. They're so similar. I was going to have to think about it for a minute. Okay, so this one is a standard card base. Again, we have the 5.5 by 8.5 scored at 4 1/4. We do that a lot. This time I scored this at 1 1/4 as well. And so we're going to fold the middle one into a valley, and then we're going to do this one into a mountain. And so that's where we're going to bring in our bone folder. The bone folder, you just press along the edge and it's going to keep that nice and flat. So it just ensures that we get the best crease out of the card so it doesn't pop open. So it seems like a silly thing, but it is actually very helpful. Okay, so that's going to be our base. Then I have for the inside a piece of the Designer Series paper. I'm using the Perennial Lavender Designer Series paper. I love it because it is so gorgeous. It's got this really pretty watercolor look to it, and you don't really need to do a whole lot to it. It's just so pretty all by itself. And because it's so pretty, I don't want to cover all of it up. So I have a piece of cardstock that is 3 by 4 1/4. and then 2 3/4 by 4. So those are going to layer on top of each other, and they're going to go in the middle. And all that's doing is it's really just giving me a wider border around the outside so we can see more of that gorgeous paper. Then I've got this piece for the inside that's going to fit over here. This is, let's see, 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. And then the same thing over here, only a different print. And then for the focal point on the front, this is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And then 3 by 4 1/4. And then I'm actually going to need another piece. I need this piece right here that is going to be 3/4 wide. And no, this is 1 inch wide. This is 3/4. And then it's going to be the same width as this one. So 3 inches. So let me grab that. So I'm going to be grabbing it out of my little pack of scraps. I hold all of my designer series paper in hanging files. So within my drawer, I have these just hanging folders, and then they have the tabs on them for what color they are. And then inside there is a manila folder that has my full sheets. The pack is just in there loose. And then I have these Pendaflex folders that are holding all of the scraps. And so I have these available in my Amazon store if you are interested in getting organized yourself. I have links out there. Okay, so let's see. 1 inch here. My 3 inches. I used to have all of my scraps just kind of loosely, kind of in a bin almost. But I found I didn't use them as often as I do now that I have them all corralled into one little thing, because I have them stored with the full sheets. And so every time I go to make a card, I check what's in here first before I open up, a new sheet and cut into it. This one, kind of a little wider than I wanted. Let's see. Oh, okay, because it's such a little piece, I don't want it to shift. I am butting it up here to the bottom, but I'm going to start with my blade on top and come down. Then it's a little more stable to me to do it that way. When I start at the bottom, sometimes it just moves the cardstock, and I don't want it to do that. Okay, so, yeah, see, that's still giving me a little wider than I wanted. Let's see. I'm just going to trim this down a little bit. So this must have been, think a minute. Sorry, this should be so simple. I must have just used a strip that I had left over, because it's just a little bit less. Sometimes I do that, which is probably not good, because I kind of just reach in and whatever kind of floats together well, I'll use them without even trimming them down and making them exactly the right size, which is, I guess, just something we do when we get kind of artistic. We kind of play around and go, okay, those two scraps look good together, and I don't even consider that they're not exact measurements. So if you want exact measurements, do 1 inch and 3/4. If you want a little skinnier like this, just kind of play around with it. Okay. Oh, let me turn off the little tickler. Okay. So I have those pieces. So what I want to do first, maybe let's just put some designer series paper on. We're going to get that out of, oh, look at how pretty. Sometimes it's hard to decide which side to use. So let's just put this one on the front here. To me, it's just kind of simpler when I have less pieces like floating around on my desk. So since these don't require any die cutting or stamping or any of those things, I can just go ahead and adhere them, and then they're not floating around. You'll notice I'm only using a little bit of adhesive in each corner. You don't need much. I've only got, 3/4 of an inch maybe in each corner, and that's going to stick very well. That's one of the benefits of using a good quality adhesive, is the cards will not fall apart. I know I've heard some people go buy their adhesive at the dollar store, and I understand it's inexpensive, but it's cheap, which is not always a good thing because it dries over a period of time, and then it just doesn't stick anymore, and then your card falls apart, like layers come off and things. So I would love it if you buy Stampin' Up, but if you don't and you still want to buy something else, fine. Just don't buy the stuff that's not good quality because it's not good. It's not saving you any money in the long run. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut up a little bit and up a little bit. And it doesn't even matter exactly where. You'll notice I didn't do any measuring. I didn't anything. All I want is to cut these off so that when I adhere the front of my card to that little flap, it's just going to allow it to hinge. So it's just kind of a built-in L bracket, so that when I go and I adhere this on here, I'm just going to center it overall on the whole card, but I'm only going to adhere it right here. So here I'm using a little extra glue because I want this to stick well, because this is where the movement's going to come in. And so people will be tugging on it, and I certainly don't want it to fall apart. So a little more adhesive is good. You'll notice I'm kind of rubbing it. That's number one, to push down on it, but number two, to create a little bit of heat, because that softens up the glue in our colder weather, and that's going to make it stick better too. But now we have our front flap. Okay, and then for the inside, I made this one. Oh, I did the wrong one. Look at that. And then I made it stick. Okay. As I'm talking, I know that I made that a little smaller. But I didn't pay attention when I was gluing it on, and then I made it super stuck. So I'm going to use what I call undo. Again, it's in my Amazon store. But this is a little adhesive remover, and this stuff is fabulous. I first found out about it when I was scrapbooking, because somebody was using it sitting next to me on photos. And I went, oh my God, you just got it all over the face of that photo. And she goes, oh yeah, it's going to dry. It'll be fine. And she wasn't kidding. It was totally fine. She put her page together and there was nothing wrong with her photos. It was amazing. It dries really quickly, but if it's not drying fast enough for you, like I'm on camera, I want to speed this up, we can heat it with the heat tool. And I don't know if you caught that, but it just dried super quick. So now I can do this again, and I'm going to use the larger piece. Like I said, I have the two pieces. One's a little bigger than the other. I'm going to put the larger one on the front. Okay. And then I'm going to put the smaller one on the inside. And this is how I noticed that it was a little bit off. is because it's a little bit smaller. And the way that I make this line up is I set the two on top of each other, and there's a little bit of a border around there. It's just a 1/4 inch smaller, so I can set it in there like that. And then I'm going to close the card. How long have I had the bottle of Undo? I use it quite frequently, and probably at least 6 months. I mean, you don't use very much. I mean, unless you make a serious amount of mistakes, not very much. And it does last a long time. And I want to say this was $10. I mean, so it does last a very long time, and it's not super expensive. And like I said, it works fabulously for the card making, scrapbooking, and I've like pulled labels off of bottles, bumper stickers off the car. I mean, any of those things where you have adhesive that's just too overstuck and you need it removed. Okay, so I have, again, I'm checking this time. I have 2 different sizes. I'm going to use the larger piece as my focal point on the front. And we're going to use the Spotlight on Nature stamp set. And I'm going to use this stamp right here. So I'm going to set it down on my surface, and then I'm just going to set the block on top of it and pick it up. Then I'm going to lay it flat on my table like this. And I want to ink this up, but you'll notice this is inked in 2 different colors. And of course, our stamp pads are only 1 color each, right? So that's where the Stampin' Write markers come in. And this does work on both photopolymer and red rubber, but I will admit it works a lot better on the red rubber because this is a technique that's been around since the 90s. I mean, when I was very first doing Stampin' Up, we had the ability to do this kind of thing. I think at the time, I don't even know if Stampin' Up had their own yet. We used Zig markers as a brand from way back. But they have these dye-based ink. So remember, we use Stampin' Blends, and the Stampin' Blends, I've mentioned several times, are an alcohol-based. These are dye-based. Because they're dye-based, they are the same ink that is included in our regular stamp pads. So it's the same ink that goes in here. And we used to be able to take the little re-inkers, and we could pull out one of the ends and drop a few drops of ink in there and then roll it around on the table, leave it flat, and it would re-ink them. We've been told by Stampin' Up this time around that they don't want us doing that with the new markers. I'm not really totally clear why. It might have a little something to do with the non-foaming agent that's in them now because of the foam pads. I'm not sure. You will hear people tell you you can re-ink them. We used to be able to. I haven't heard anybody say it's destructive to them and they've had problems, but Stampin' Up had told us for one reason or another they're no longer re-inkable. That's up to your judgment if you want to try that or not. But one end is a brush tip, and then one end is this now felt tip. It used to be kind of a ballpoint tip to it, and they redesigned them recently, and now it's more of a felt tip. But you can tell this is the skinny end because it has the skinny line. This is the fat end because it has the fat line. But I'm going to take this and I'm going to just drag it along the red rubber. And I'm using the side so that I'm not pushing down on the tip of it. I don't want to ruin the tip. So I'm just applying the ink strategically where I want it to go. If you're using multiple colors, you want to start with your lightest color first, because you wouldn't want to use a really dark color, say this gorgeous grape, and then come in with a Daffodil Delight marker because you might accidentally bump into the other color. And if it's a light color onto a dark, you're not going to notice it. But if you were sweeping this with your Daffodil Delight and you happen to pick up some gorgeous grape, you're probably not going to be overly happy about that. So just work from your lightest color to your darker color. And then just ink it all over. Again, I'm using dye-based markers. Do not do this with your Stampin' Blends. The alcohol ink is not good for the red rubber. So it's preferred that you use the dye-based ink for this technique. But you just want to get it kind of all over. And you'll notice it's kind of dried. And so what I want to do is I want to come in and I want to huff on it, which I know sounds very strange. But you're going to go because the moisture in your breath is going to re-wet the ink and it's going to make it work a lot better for you. So just huff on it. And then you're going to place it down onto your cardstock. And then you're going to get this beautiful image with multiple colors. So isn't that gorgeous? And you still get all the fine line detail that is included in this stamp. And then we're ready to go ahead and adhere this to the front. And we're going to do this again on the second card. So you'll get to see this again. But I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Let's make sure my thing is the right length, just for giggles. Okay. Yeah, that is exactly the right width. Now, if it was not, if it was a little bit too long, I would now want to come back and snip off the excess while I can see it. Because if we adhere it down and snip off from the back, I can see where the difference is. Whereas if this is already on my project and then I come in with my little strip and I'm going, okay, that's a little too wide. And I'm going to come in with my snips and I'm going to trim off the edge. I might trim off too much and I don't want to do that. Because see, you could get, you know, that white on the side and we don't want that. And then of course you would lay this one on top of it and then snip off any excess there as well if they were different. But I'm going to use the Dear Friend sentiment out of our stamp set. Hopefully you have this stamp set. It's gorgeous. I know when I very first ordered it, I was mainly interested in the dies. The dies that come with this are circles and they have designs in them and they nest one inside of each other and layer beautifully. And because they're just decorative circles, you can use them on anything. It doesn't matter if you're doing masculine, feminine, birthday, anniversary, flowers, sailboats, whatever you're using, they work, which is super fun to use in your collection because it's money well spent in the fact that you can use them over so many different things. So here they are here. So you see some of them have kind of a pretty eyelet. Some of them have just the little dashes in them. And then this is just a dry embossing that goes around the inside and they nest. So you can mix and match or use all the same. But I use them all the time. They're fabulous. And I, you know, at first I'm like, okay, I'm not real excited about the stamp set, but I'm finding the more I use it, the more I like it. Especially with all the detail that comes in it. The detail inside this is just really great. So I'm going to set this just across the front of my card. And then we're ready to do this little piece on the inside. And you can leave it blank. I decided to just add the little butterfly. And if that's taking up too much space, you know, you want more room to write, then don't be afraid to let it hang off the edge. You know, you don't have to show the entire thing. You can let it run off a little bit. Sorry. So see, we still get the idea that it's a butterfly, but it's not taking up as much room as it does here. There's also some just little hash marks and some little dots, just some little decorative pieces. You could choose to use those. These work great as just like little backgrounds or accents in a corner. That one's hash marks, and then this one's just little speckles. You can also, if you don't have that, what you can do to create speckles is that you can, again, take the Stampin' Right marker and you would kind of hold the cap at an angle and then take the fat tip end, and you're going to draw a line kind of inside the inside of your cap and then flick it. So as you pull it out, the last thing it does is it throws little teeny tiny little speckles all over your design. And so all I did was I kind of drew on the inside of the cap and then just pulled it. And when I pull it all the way out, it does the little flicking. Let's see. I also think this would be really pretty with a few little pearls on the outside. So let me get this out of the way before I stick my elbow in it. And we will this one in here. Then to put pearls on the outside, I'm going to use the Take Your Pick tool. I'm using the putty end of it. And then I'm going to take my little iridescent pearl rhinestone jewels or pearl jewels. And then I'm going to just set my Take Your Pick tool down on top of one of them. And then I'm going to push. And it lifts it up and attaches it to my little tool so that I can then just set it down on my project. And see how quick and easy that was? And anytime you need more putty to come out of this, you want to squeeze down hard and it will make more ooze out of it. But the trick is, as soon as you do that and you have enough stuff at the end, you want to back it off half of a turn, because if you leave it after you've screwed down and you leave it, it's going to continue oozing out until you relieve the pressure behind that. So just be careful if you do that. And of course, there's other ends that you can get that you can, attach to this. These come out and you can swap out different things that you can put in the ends. You can put a new one of these at that end, and then this end has that. So there's the spatula, and then there's some stylus that come with it, 2 different sizes, and then there's some additional pieces that screw in. But anyway, I love the Take Your Pick tool. It's a fabulous thing. There is card number 1. Okay, so card number 2, very similar. But I'm going to bring out all my pieces. So again, we're starting with 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4 and at 1 1/4. Doing the same thing, valley in the middle, mountain out here. But this time I'm not going to cut it. On our first one, we cut it down so that it was just a little section that we were gluing our top front to. This time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere my extra designer series paper to that. So I'm going to leave my border around here and let it hang off the edge. So my border is here and here. So I mean, I'm still getting that 1/4 inch border all around, but it's spanning over the 2 pieces. Okay, again, because I want to make sure that my adhesive stays over here, I'm going to put it on this side and then set my designer series paper over the top of it, making sure that I'm centering it. But by doing it that way, instead of adhering it to the designer series paper first, I know for a fact there's no adhesive back here. Okay, for the inside of the card, I've got my 4 by 5 1/4. Let's see, this one out here was 5 1/4 in my height by 2 1/4 wide. Okay, these two are going to be on either side of this. And because it was the same, measurement here, this is going to be the 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. And then I've got the same piece of designer series paper. I can choose to use both the same side, or I can flip one over and have 2 different ones, which is what I think I'm going to do. So because I've got a pattern here, let's put a non-pattern on this side. And then these are both fairly neutral. So we can set this pattern over here. And that's one of the beauties of working with Stampin' Up's designer series paper, is usually all the pieces within a pack of paper, these are all from the Perennial Lavender, they all coordinate beautifully. They've all got the same kind of color and style to them. And of course, they're all using Stampin' Up colors. And so I was able to easily pull out that this was Pretty Peacock, and then we have Gorgeous Grape and Highland Heather and Crumb Cake, very vanilla. It was all right there in the designer series paper, so I knew which pieces of cardstock I wanted. Okay, these are both the same size. You could do them a little smaller if you wanted to. I didn't find it necessary since this is covering the inside. I don't have to have them land exactly the same. So the Gorgeous Grape is 3 by 3. So this is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing in centering it, but because I know this is what we're going to tug on, I'm going to put a little more adhesive, and then I'm going to center it overall in my card, which is why I made sure I didn't put any here, because I don't want it to stick here. You could choose to stick it there if you wanted. I suppose it wouldn't be bad. Just the idea is these are flip-flap cards, and so I wanted it to be able to flip and flap, right? And it's only going to do that if this side is not glued down. But it would beautifully open this way. I mean, if it was glued down, nothing wrong with that. Don't ever think you need to follow my cards exactly the way I do them. I always encourage you to be creative with it, to take it and make it your own. We call it casing. You would copy and share everything, which means all of us Stampin' Up demonstrators love to show you guys a way to do something. And if you copy it exactly, we ask that you, reference back and say this is where you got your design. But you can also just take this fold or this paper or this layout or whatever and just kind of change it up a little bit and make it your own and your casing. So we're going to do same idea. I did the butterfly in here. We did those out here. So I had my scrap paper and I set it over here. I try to keep this one clean because I don't change it every week. And I like it to be pretty when I'm working with you guys. It distracts me to have that all be a mess. So it's, I don't know, kind of for you, kind of for me. I don't like to be distracted when I'm trying to teach. I often tell people I try to always put my ink pad up there. I'd rather reach to ink up than have it back here and set my arm into it. So I find if I try to remember to stick my ink pad up there, I don't make quite the mess. I know a lot of people talk about stamping and you get your fingers all inky. For the most part, I don't. Occasionally I do. I won't say I never do, but I try not to, because then I touch my papers and things and have to cover up mistakes, or little splotches. I need to find an additional little something to stamp over it to cover up so it's not distracting that I have a fingerprint in the middle of it all. We're going to go back to coloring our stamp. Again, I have this. Oh, and it went sideways on me again. Darn it. Come on, will it straighten out? It won't straighten on me. Darn it. I am so sorry. I don't know why it does this. Technology, I swear. Okay, we're almost done. Okay, we're almost. I apologize. It's goofy. I don't know why it did that. It won't let me change it back, but hopefully you still get the idea that I am just using the side of my Stampin' Right marker. I'm applying ink to the flowers. I'm using Gorgeous Grape. I'm using the side of the larger tip. We call this a brush tip end. Making sure I've got pretty good coverage, but then I'm going to come back in with my next darker color, which is a Pretty Peacock. I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I am turning the stamp as I go along because I want my hand to stay comfortable. I am most accurate if my hand is comfortable. This works with coloring, with cutting, with any of those things where you're requiring some dexterity from your hands. Keep your hand comfortable and spin your project. Instead, you'll be a little bit happier. Okay, now I'm going to huff on this. As I said before, I'm just going to breathe on it. That's going to re-wet the ink. Then I'm going to come down here and stamp onto my cardstock. Firm, even pressure, straight up and down. You'll notice that I used a very large stamp, larger than the cardstock I'm stamping onto, and that's okay. We can do a little bit of flicking. I'm doing it in 2 different colors to complement it. We could even come in with a little bit of Wink of Stella if we wanted to. This is a brush tip that will add glitter to the end of things, just giving it a little bit of sparkle. We don't have the loose glitter like we used to have, but this gives a little bit of sparkle without making a big old mess. If that's catching the light quite right, but this is really gorgeous in person. Just giving it a little bit of sparkle without the mess. Then we can go ahead and adhere this to the front, and I can do away with this sideways screen. Okay. So sorry about the sideways. I don't know why it did that, but here is our card number 2. And it has the sparkle on the front and the little bit of flicking. Let's see, can I catch the light? Can't quite catch the light, but I swear there's little sparkles. And then on the other card, we even added a few pearls. And it just opens like that. So today we did 2 cards. They're both fun fold. They are both fun, and I hope you enjoyed them. Thursday, I might pre-record Thursday because I have a doctor's appointment in the morning. I'm not sure it's going to get out exactly on time. It's supposed to, but we all know doctors don't always run on time. So I'm going to pre-record it, schedule it up, and then I'm going to hopefully appear in the comments. So you can still chat with me. The plan is you can still chat with me. I can even do it on my phone if I'm not quite all the way home yet. But we're going to be making these 2 cards. Super simple because it is a Thursday. We are doing our simple stamping. So these are super easy. And I started out with one just, again, super, super easy. And then I just did something a little bit different just to give it a little something. To step it up a little bit. But this is our Stamping Made Simple Thursday video. So I hope you come back and watch that one. And don't forget to like and share. You get your chance to win the card like Karen did for Thursday's video. Just liking and sharing this video, she's going to get a free card in the mail. If you are, I want to point something out. We just heard today, the maker or the manufacturer we have for our aqua painters is not making them anymore. I guess now they're called water painters, but these are fabulous. They are little paint brushes, and you put your water in the tube, and then it has the little bristles out here. They're like reusable. You could pick up ink out of your stamp pad, your re-inker, lots of different things. And then you can paint with whatever color you're using. And then the next color, you just kind of run water through it till it's clear, pick up your next color and continue coloring. You can also use them for in place of blender pens if you're using your watercolor pencils. There's lots of things we can use these for. They do come in 3 different sizes. That's the medium. The larger one does kind of a wash, watercolor wash background. But those are still in our store, but while supplies last until we can find a new manufacturer. So if you have those on your wish list, I would grab them before they're gone. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the comments on Thursday. Thanks so much. Bye.